This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian. Wondering why we don't celebrate this often enough? National Slime Day.
Oh, my gosh. Now, this is wide-ranging, Max. What are you talking about here? No, well, save it. I know we're going to unpack this, but Allan, this could go a lot of directions. There is beneficial slime in the world.
There is. There is, and there's then all that stuff our buddy Larry Brown deals with.
Right. Well, I'm thinking of Nickelodeon. I mean, they made a whole career out of dumping that stuff on people. So, okay.
Entire movie franchises have been based on slime.
Okay, National Slime Day. Well, hey, if you want to chime in and get involved in the conversation, go over to Tool Talk Radio on Facebook. Join us at Facebook. That's what it is, at Tool Talk Radio. I'll get that one of these days. And if you go over there, you're going to see a couple of items. You're going to see one of the discussions coming up. It seemed only appropriate, Allan, for our great moments in building history. We're going to discuss the recently restored Notre Dame Cathedral. I think people may have heard of it.
Maybe one or two.
Right.
I mean, I know Jason Alexander was in the movie about the Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's pretty low-hanging fruit actually, but there's a lot to unpack in that conversation. And also, you're going to see something that we're going to discuss in just a moment. Tis the season, you guys. So, coming up, we have Allan's annual Grinch report. I mean, it's only fitting. I mean, this is good.
It is.
Well, it's also very useful information. We prefer that you don't burn your house down.
Absolutely.
Doing stupid things or having your pets wreck the living room with the tree. But so we'll be getting to that. The cork floor is in, you guys. I got it installed.
Right.
If you're new to Tool Talk Radio, you should know that recently I installed my first ever cork floor. I've put in lots of floors of pre-finished, that pre-finished hardwood, the pre-finished cut and click type of floor, but hadn't done cork before, and it's a little bit different. I will say it's a little bit of a different process, a very unique looking floor. And so if you've got a cork floor, if you've had a experience with cork floors, today's another good day to chime in. I think, what are we going to call this? Street level science? Allan and I were discussing this at the end of the show last week, and we were talking about, for all these, we're talking about manned missions to Mars and colonies on Mars, and lots of exciting, adventurous types of travel, you could say. But it really, your life is in the hands of the maintenance personnel.
Oh yes.
And how often is that the case, really, here on Earth? We've got factories, we've got manufacturing plants, we have things where it's like you better hope that the maintenance personnel were on task and don't overlook the blue collar guys. They're the ones that get the job done. So
yeah. There's a famous company slogan about that. Yes.
Exactly. We have a lot of other that we're not going to tease because we figure it's probably we never get to all of it. But one thing we are going to get to right now is our must-have item of the week. So tell people what I'm holding up.
Well, you were holding up, I believe, a folding pull saw.
Right. I've seen. I know. I don't know if this qualifies as a Japanese pull saw. It's shaped the same. Max, you told me there's a distinction, though.
I thought the pole saws for Japanese are bladed on both sides.
Yeah, this one's just got blades on one side. If you want to go to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, you can see it. And Allan's right. This one is great. Basically, the handle is about 11 or 12 inches long. The blade itself is about 11 or 12 inches long. It's a pretty good ratio. And the blade is thin and flexible. I'd say the blade is about 3.5 inches wide. But what's great about that is you can flip the blade. You can angle it if you have to put it at an unusual angle. It has these different teeth that hold the blade in place. And having a flexible blade that you pull, I mean, not in every situation, but there is something to be said for pulling towards you in terms of control and, the ability to get into tight corners, which is what I had to do this week. So.
Well, I remember the very first time I picked one of those up, and I was kind of like, and who got ripped off?
What do you mean?
It's like you can wiggle it back and forth, and the blade will wiggle.
It makes a cool sound. You can probably make music out of it, actually. Yeah.
I'm sure it's in a band somewhere.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm waving it now, but it's not making any music.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you don't have the handle on it. You're not getting that whip.
Okay.
But it gives you that cool Marx Brothers kind of playing the saw sound.
Right.
But the first time I picked one up, I was like, wow, this thing is really just borderline useless. And then I used it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, this thing is borderline absolute genius.
Right.
The biggest thing that I have used them for is having to get under and over. And that blade will bend, and because you pull it, you're not relying on the push like we do out of a big handsaw, because you can pull it back gently.
Right.
It lets you trim that little spot that maybe got water swollen, or it'll cure little tight corners.
Right.
When you're trying to get in there of it. It's just one of those blades. If you've never used one, you just don't get it.
Well,
after you use it, you're sold.
If you use it in the situation that I used, okay, so what I had to do this week, the reason this will tie into my cork floor discussion later, but I wanted to, for lack of a better term, have the threshold of the door. I wanted to tuck the threshold under the existing door trim. I guess that makes sense. So I marked the line where it was going to go, and cutting that with a regular saw is not easy to do. But this one, it's like you said. What I did was I put cardboard at each side, because there was tile on one side and a cork floor on the other, so I don't want to scratch it. So I put some thick. Well, not super thick, but I put cardboard, and the cardboard kind of moved each time I cut it. But what that allowed is I could bend up the handle. When I cut with this at first, I usually hold it with two hands, actually.
Right.
Like I guide it in, I get my line started, and then, man, it's really effective how it cuts. And I would make particular note, folks, if you're watching this on the radio, of the tip of this thing. The tip has this little kind of blunt thing. It can handle if you bump into something. I think they know what people are using this for. So you basically, you go till it stops. But and then I still had to chisel out some parts, and I believe I hit you can see some broken teeth. I think I hit a little finish nail or something with this. But I'll tell you, man, it was a lifesaver, because the only other opportunity, or the only other option, if I didn't have a way to cut this, was I'd have to take the trim off and then recut it and put it. And you know how that is. This trim is almost 100 years old. It's not coming off without a fight.
Oh no, and it's not going back in without a fight.
Right. So it was particularly useful. And folks, it's just a cool feeling tool. When you have it, it just feels good. Like you want to just chop your way through a jungle or something with this thing. It's kind of like a machete. I mean, when you get this thing together, it's almost 2 feet long. It
is, and it's one of those. It's a tactile experience.
Yeah,
because as you pull on that saw, the tooth arrangement on it is very fine and very precise. Mm-hmm. So you're getting a very thin cut.
It's a clean cut.
And it is not pulling those edges, and it's not creating splinters. So it is a very very precision item in spite of its size.
And I would say this: if you have one of these and you think, oh, this is going to be my go-to saw, it's not really the best for cutting a 2x4.5 or something like that.
You'll be there for an hour,
and I guarantee you're not going to get a 90-degree cut with it either. It's going to want to start going sideways. It's designed for a purpose, and that's what you should use it for.
Nice, thin, rigid cuts, especially for flooring.
But the pull saw, and especially like Max indicated, the Japanese pull saw is even cooler. I mean, I could see Max whipping that thing out and using it in one of his
I have one.
Aikido classes. Yeah.
It's kind of built like a wakizashi or a naginata.
Okay. whatever that is. So
You don't need to know.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
it just looks like it will remind you of the nose of a sawfish.
okay, all right, but it's perfect, exactly. That's exactly what it looks like, only thinner, and made of metal. All right, well, the must-have item of the week, the pole saw. All right, let's shift gears, you guys. Oh, very good, Max. This is going to be good. Well,
This is called Santa's naughty list.
okay. I like how Max always gives us the backstory and the royalty-free music that he finds for us. But tis the season.
Oh my gosh!
And
yes,
we
it
were
is.
talking about all the different holiday things we want to talk about. So there's a few things on the table, folks. This is going to be the best and worst holiday hacks, and also things to do to not burn your house down. Some of Allan's practical hacks, but I'm going to kick it off. Hopefully I can do this quickly. Folks, you may have heard this story. I think I tell it every Christmas, but my mother had a very unique way of looking at the world. Anyway, when we were growing up, she always wanted to do something a little different for Christmas. And so somehow she got her hands on a weather balloon. And now I think I was 6 years old. This is one of those early memories that sort of stamp itself into your psyche, Allan.
A little more therapy required.
She thought it would be a riot to inflate this weather balloon so it filled up the entire living room, inches away from the Christmas tree, which is going to be relevant in just a second. And I have a twin brother, folks. I don't know if you know that, but basically we got up. My twin brother and I were the last to get up because we're the youngest in the family. He's sitting there rubbing his eyes, didn't notice anything, stumbled into the weather balloon, and it exploded. And it was a pretty epic movement of air. That's all I really remember. I remember this blurry image and then a rush of air and lots of stunned faces. Ooh. And we'll wrap up my thoughts on that. But that's what we're looking for, folks. Horrible holiday hacks. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, especially if you have any horrifying holiday experiences that could, they could maybe top my story of the exploding weather balloon on Christmas. So, and it's funny. The ironic part, if you're just tuning in, folks, of this exploding weather balloon is my mom bought it mostly with my twin brother and I in mind. We were the youngest. She thought, they're going to have a lot of fun with this weather balloon, but maybe she didn't allow for clearance. You can't fill the entire room up with a balloon. I mean, what are you going to do with that? So it wasn't very well thought out.
There are so many stories that in hindsight, there was only one outcome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying weather balloon. Maybe it was some cheapo knockoff, whatever. I have to feel like a weather balloon could handle bumping into a pine tree. Like
actually,
an actual
it probably wasn't a weather balloon, but at your age, it was probably a punch balloon.
And let's face it, it was the 70s. Nothing was made with quality. So.
It was a little sketchy, But there was actually a giant balloon they made at the time that actually had a little string at the end of it.
Well, I remember those, but...
So that you could sit, and I mean, I think she just got a little carried away and overinflated it.
Well, this was back in the day before the shop vac was invented, as far as I know. And she discovered, to her credit, that she said, wow, there's air blowing out of the back of this vacuum cleaner. So she realized, just this blue-collar lady realized that you could blow it up with the vacuum cleaner.
That was probably the problem.
Yeah, so that got her thinking about things, which she shouldn't have. But anyway, if you've got any stories about that, that's what we want today. Holiday hacks and good ones. Let's face it, we want good holiday hacks. And with that in mind, we're going to turn it over to my colleague Allan Gilbreth for his annual Grinch report. And I know you've
We're
got a whole
going to start
checklist
with
here.
burnt
So.
sockets.
Okay.
That has been my call to duty this week. The number of people that have sent me pictures. Can I still use this? The answer is, if you have to ask, no.
Oh.
If you're going to send me a picture of a wall socket and go, is this still good? No.
Now, how do you tell by a picture? That's interesting.
Well, because usually there's scorch marks all over the face of it.
So the plate is melted.
They've
It's all
already,
charred.
you've
Okay.
already tripped over the wire, ripped it half out of the socket, and shorted it out.
Okay.
So the answer is no. It's kind of like when somebody in your family goes, here, smell this. Is it good? If you got to ask, the answer is no.
Okay.
So let's go back to Allan's lessons about amperage. Every piece of electrical equipment you buy comes with a UL tag, or at least it should. If it doesn't have a UL tag, I would strongly suggest you not buy it.
What does UL stand for?
That is Underwriter's Laboratory. These are the people that basically look at an extension cord and go, yeah, you're mostly not going to die.
Mostly.
It's not
Okay.
100% guarantee, but they did put it through some testing and put the results on that little white label.
Okay.
Now, on that little white label is going to be the amperage that whatever your device pulls.
Right.
So if you go all Clark Griswold out there and go absolutely berserk with the amount of lights that you're trying to hang, and you got 47 surge protectors all tied into one big mess, and you plug it into a single socket, congratulations, your lights are going to go out because the breaker is going to trip if you're lucky.
Right. Because it may not trip. And then
Well, if
that's when
that
the melting
breaker's
starts.
old and it gets stuck, then
Right.
you get to have, an electrical fire. Please don't do that. Add up your amps. Generally, every wall socket in your house, and this is just a rule of thumb, it's not 100% true, but you got about 15 amps per socket.
Right.
So when you look at it and you go, okay, I've got 4 strings of lights, and they can plug into each other, and each string uses 3 amps.
Okay.
So you got 12 amps of lights, you got 15 amps in the wall socket. Congratulations, you're done. You're not plugging anything else in there.
Right.
So, and I know everybody goes, well, I got 3 more amps. No, not really.
You got to give
'Cause
yourself a cushion, right?
You got to leave yourself a little bit of room. So don't over-connect a wall socket. Just plain simple. And number 2, if it ain't outside rated, don't use it outside.
Right.
I cannot tell you the number of front yard disasters caused by that 99-cent cheapy, I'm trying to find good words without saying bad words, cheapy electrical cord that you should have never bought in the first place.
Well, I got a question about that because I know there's inside and outside extension cords and everything, but I never really gave it much thought. Is there something, I know obviously it's insulated better. I'm sure
Yes.
it's designed to keep water out. However, okay, water could still possibly get in. In fact, water's probably going to get at least to the, so what is it about an outside cord that, what other features does it have to protect you, I guess?
Well, it is generally a tighter, it is a tighter insulation.
So when you
B,
click them together, there's less gap.
There's less gap.
Okay.
They're usually pretty tight when you're trying to push those things together. Another little thing that you can buy is a keep the water out connection cover. And
I've seen
every
those.
big box store has got a billion of them right now. And they're dirt cheap. And are they 100% effective? No. But is it a reasonable effort to keep your stuff safe and dry? Yes.
Well, and you can arrange the cord so it's not just going to be sitting where a puddle's going to form.
Right. You
when
don't
it
want to
rains,
leave
so
it
it's
in
like-
the gutter where the water is going to fill it up.
Right. So I mean, I think, and it's funny because all of us think of Clark Griswold the minute we think of electrical stuff. But I've seen houses; they're not quite at that level, but there's still quite a bit of voltage going on there or amperage going on. So what are they doing? Is it just low voltage lights, or is it?
Well, it's a little bit of everything, but a lot of those people have actually gone to the expense of having an electrician set them up a box for their exterior demonstration lights.
Okay, gotcha.
So they've actually, very wisely learned of all of this uses quite a bit of power. So let's make sure we are electrically safe and that, you don't keep blowing the neighborhood breakers.
Right. I got a question. Well, this is just an observation. I think I know how this is done, but I've never actually seen it done. But there is a trend, and I don't know when this started, maybe 5 or 10 years ago. It's impressive. I mean, it looks cool, but I've seen this a lot in East Memphis. You'll go, you'll see a tree. It's a tree out in the yard, a fully mature tree. This thing has to be 70 feet tall. And they have white lights wrapped around the entire branches going all the way basically to the top of this thing. I don't know how you do that without one of those giant cranes or something. I mean, it seems like a serious commitment. It looks awesome. But I'm thinking you probably leave it up there year round too.
Yeah, they don't bring those down. They let the leaves hide them.
But who's out there? If you're out there doing that, and that's one of the things you've done, I would love to hear about the process. It sounds expensive and dangerous, and
I've seen.
I don't know, man. And what if it goes out and you got to change it?
Well, I've seen 3 methods.
Okay.
I have seen a cherry picker. I actually out there with the cherry picker wrapping the tree.
Yeah.
I have seen the idea that I don't advocate, which is sending the spryest member of the family up the tree.
Right. With a parachute.
Yeah, can't hope they make it. Or the really big extension ladder climbing up through the tree.
But how do you get to these little thin outlying
branches? Not highly
branches?
Advocating that one. The latest one I have seen, of course, is of dragging lines up into the trees via a drone.
Oh, come on. Is there a drone strong enough to do?
Oh, there's
you
plenty
gotta
of
have
drones.
some precision flying.
Well, it's not your $39 drone you picked up at the toy store. But yeah, I've seen people with basically commercial level drones having them haul the wiring up into the upper branches.
If I had to guess, some of them look like, because of the way the lights are laid out, it almost looks like you had like a fishing net that was flexible and you wrapped it around and each little part of, there's lights all across it or something. And they wrap it. But it's impressive and it looks very neat too. So I'm just like, this is a serious production. People are serious about their Christmas lights. If you're serious, we'd love to hear from you. So get in touch. All right, let's see. Where are we going next here? Well, that's on the table. I am curious about this National Slime Day. Then we're going to find out what Allan did this week. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
There's an exposed wire above the bathtub as well.
Oh, yeah, shock wire. I call it that because if you take a shower and you touch the wire, you die.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
So don't touch the wire. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, we're having a little fun. I guess we activated the text line. I kind of figured we would on a couple of topics. Let's see. Well, we were talking about holiday hacks. I was telling the rather amusing and really more or less harmless story, except for the trauma involved of the exploding weather balloon on Christmas morning story. Allan's given us a little bit more practical nuts and bolts advice about how not to burn your house down with Christmas lights and amperage and really just basic math. Just do the math, use common sense. But, and also when you're putting out your Christmas lights outside and it's sunny and clear, you still have to think about what is this going to look like when the rain starts and where are the puddles going to form and things like that.
Yeah, how am I going to hide those wires?
But and also coming up, I'm going to give you a follow-up report on my cork flooring adventure of installing my first ever cork floor. I've installed other floors before, but Max, you said we had a text in that regard.
We got an anonymous text from a texter 7133.
What they have to say?
Cork floor regarding cork floor. It's cork floor what you put in fishing cabins.
Okay, Alan, is this... Why do I feel like this is some guy? Is this a serious one?
No, this is a snicker.
Okay, snicker.
This is
in
a
what
snicker.
way? Like, are
This
we
is
talking?
a snicker. All right. Well, all right. You need
All right,
like a 2
texter.
foot. Yeah, you need a 2 foot thick floor to keep your fishing cabin afloat.
So that's what we're talking about?
Yeah.
So you want a floating fish? Why don't you just go buy a boat, texter
Well, all right,
7133?
now I will throw this in just as I'm not serious, but I will defend it slightly.
Okay.
I have a number of friends that live quite a bit further north than us, and apparently, now I find this totally abhorrent to every drop of blood in my soul. They actually take little fishing cabins and slide them out in the middle of frozen lakes and drill holes in the lake and sit around in your little frozen cabin and go fishing.
Oh, yeah, I've watched that 70s show.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I can't do that. No,
Why? Wait, just why? What do you got against that?
It's cold.
No, I get. Oh, okay. I thought you meant just the idea that it could collapse and fall through the ice. Or
mine would never collapse or fall through the ice because I would never be there.
Okay,
That's just not going to happen.
Ice fishing does look pretty miserable, but
I'm just kind of like, how? What are you hiding from that you have to go sit in the middle of a frozen lake and say that you're having fun? If you have any ice fishermen out there, feel free to send me some suggestions, but I ain't going.
You know what else would be unsettling about I mean, there's always this notion of, okay, well, if something goes wrong, I am in the middle of a lake. Who knows how deep this thing is?
Oh, yeah.
You could get swept by the current under. It's got to be really unsettling.
There is an entire YouTube subculture of watching people's trucks sink into lakes.
Yeah.
Where they got out there a little too soon and the ice wasn't quite thick enough.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, texter 7133.
Yeah, no, I would not use cork flooring in my fishing shack.
Okay. But you said we had another texter that's a little bit more on point, right?
Depends on how we define on point.
Talk to me.
Derek from Munford. Thank you, Derek. This might be a bad holiday hack. I knew a man in Missouri growing up who constructed a floor in his living room that he could lower to the basement. He set up his Christmas tree display on that floor and would just raise it up every year so that all he had to do was dust off the tree and ornaments.
Oh, come on.
That man may be my hero.
I wonder if it's like I'm a speaker in there that plays classical music every time it ascends.
Okay, come on now. The question becomes, is this just way more work than just pulling out the tree than okay, first of all, do you cut a hole? I'm trying to envision this thing. Does it lower on an elevator system? Derek, we need more information, and if you had pictures, that would be great.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'm sitting here picturing, if I'm thinking he's about our age and he's going back in time, this would be a turn-of-the-century house. And something like an old coal chute or something like that you took out would leave a big
enough for
hole.
A tree?
Well, yeah, it could be. I'm just sitting here thinking, an adaptation to one of these older houses that had a feature between floors, like old dumbwaiters and that kind of stuff. I'm just thinking that is just absolutely amazing. Put your fake floor in, pull that baby up, crank the tree up out of the basement. You're good. When you're done, lower that baby back down, slap your flooring back over the top. That deserves a movie.
There's no way this guy's married. There's no way. I mean, come on. Is a wife going to put up with it? I wonder if this is the same guy that tied a bunch of helium balloons to his lawn chair and floated off. He had a BB gun. And so he could shoot when he wanted to lower altitude and everything. This sounds like the same dude. So, Derek, we need more information. This is great.
The thought, if that story is even vaguely true, is just too awesome.
You know what else though? I was picturing. What are those things that help you go up and down stairs if you have mobility issues?
Stairmasters, yeah.
Well, what if you just had a platform like that, and so you're lowering it into the basement on an angle? Maybe the tree floor that he's talking about is on wheels, and you just roll it off and you roll it down like that. And I'm just thinking that also how much dust a tree would be collecting in a basement when it's sitting there for a year.
Yeah, I don't see that as that big a problem.
What was the cartoon where they had a tree that folded up like an umbrella, and they just was that Bugs Bunny or something? Okay.
However, there are a couple of companies out there, Joe, just oddly, since you mentioned being on wheels, that will rent you a living Christmas tree. I'm dead serious. Comes in a pot. It's about, 4 to 5 foot tall. It's typical, your classic Christmas tree. You can rent it for the month of December, take it home. When you're done with it, you give it back to the nursery, and that way you had a living tree that you didn't have to, cut down or anything. So you actually rented a living tree, rolled it in, enjoyed the holidays with it, and gave it back to the nursery.
What if they don't like the condition that you give it back in? Like, what?
Well,
if,
that's between you and the nursery.
Okay.
So,
it seems like there'd be a lot of sub clauses in that rental contract of I don't know.
I just thought that was terribly cool because as I think back a million years ago when I lived in Houston, my father did exactly that.
What?
Had a potted Christmas tree in the backyard that we rolled into the patio, decorated, and when we undecorated it, it got rolled back out into the backyard.
That explains a lot. So, okay, hey, in the realm of holiday hacks, though, there's a the good old American entrepreneurial spirit. There are businesses that have cropped up over recent years where basically it's like, okay, if you want a really awesome yard decoration for the holidays, but you don't want to invest in buying all that stuff, they'll come. You pay them. I don't know what you pay them, but I guess it's Christmas tree light rental service. They set it up.
Yep,
they
they
tear
come
it down.
out.
So they must have
set up the display and take it down.
So they must have a warehouse or some pretty good storage of these. And folks, if you've ever gone that route, I'd love to know how that works. I guess my big question would be, how are they attaching things? Like, you'd have to be careful that nothing's going into your roof, like you'd want it clipped onto the gutters. And
well, they
and all
have
the other
set
stuff.
displays. You choose, I think this scene's beautiful, and that's what they built for you.
Okay.
They come out and set them up.
So lots of holiday hacks out there. It's going to be hard to top Derek
Now,
from
I do
Munford,
want to
though.
ask you about, I know that you are now blessed with a couple of felines.
Right.
Yeah, how are they around Christmas goodies?
You say blessed. We have Victor, and then my daughter brought home her cat, Shelly, which is good cats, but cats are cats. So when the tree goes up, there's always an issue. So, let's talk about that, because let's face it, a lot of us have pets, and Christmas trees and cats do not mix.
They mix fabulous.
Well,
they just don't mix the way you want them to.
Right.
You brought home the world's biggest piece of catnip. It's gonna play in it.
Is that what it is? Is that their attraction? I thought it was all the sparkly
good.
stuff.
It's a tree. It's sparkly. You got stuff on it you don't want them to touch. Guess what they're gonna do?
Yeah.
They're gonna touch every little thing
And they're not put off by the pointy pine needles and stuff
Oh,
like that.
they love it. They're up in there chewing on them. They're sleeping in the tree. They're having a great time. Okay, so let's bring up pets and Christmas.
Okay.
It is impossible to expect your animal to behave.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Right.
If you're going to put all these shiny boxes that smell cool and got weird stuff in them, the dog's going to chew on them. The dog's going to lay in them. The cat's going to claw at them. If you put shiny, breakable ornaments within the reach of a cat, all right, you can't even put a fern on a windowsill that a cat is not going to knock it off.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Now, the best Christmas tree hack I ever saw was the person that put a planter hook in their ceiling above where the Christmas tree went and strapped the Christmas tree to the planting hook.
So that way they jump on.
It can't fall over.
Well, don't say that. I mean, thanks for jinxing it. So,
oh no, they can.
We're not guaranteeing
swing.
Anything, folks.
Yeah, but
it probably won't fall over.
Well, they can work at it really good. They could probably get it over. But.
Yeah. Cat-proofing the Christmas tree is its own industry there.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, well, we have more to talk about. It's National Slime Day. We're talking cork flooring. We have a lot on the table. And we're going to get to it when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Dad, your hand is jammed in the toaster!
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. If you're just tuning in, we're in the middle of some interesting discussions off the air. We've been discussing our buddy Derek from Munford texted in and said that he had a neighbor or a friend or somebody in his life that was he didn't like taking the Christmas tree down every year. So he came up with a system where he could lower it through the floor somehow, store it in the basement, and then just roll it up when he wanted. Yeah. And we were thinking, okay, is Derek making this up? Surely somebody texting into a radio show wouldn't make things up. But we were talking about it, and okay, Allan, I've worked on a home. There's a home in Midtown I worked on. It's well over 100 years old. And coming in right into the living room, the sunroom, was an elevator. It was basically an open elevator. They don't use it anymore, but the rails are still there. It looked really old to me. I don't know. That would be a perfect thing for what Derek's talking about. But you had mentioned something else off the air that it could possibly be.
You know, it's one of those rare things where you get to go walk through a building. And since we are for those of you listening outside of the area, we are in Memphis, Tennessee, in the Mid-South, right here on the Mississippi River. And I got to go in the very first and one of the oldest buildings in Memphis of Mason's building.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say, too.
Yep. Yeah. And, we had a fun time. They couldn't figure out why basically there was a boat propeller in the basement. Mm-hmm. And I started laughing because I realized that I was standing inside of a 20-ton air conditioner.
Yeah.
That meant 20 tons of ice, turn on the giant fan, and it would blow the cold air up these big vents from floor to floor. So if you had an affluent house from 120 years ago, it very easily could have had an ice chute and a ice feature to blow air from one floor to the other.
See, that's when you said that, it made sense to me because this house was obviously pre-air conditioning, and it's a nice house. It's over there by the zoo, and so that could very realistically be.
Yeah, in that area, you've got a lot of old ice chutes, milk delivery doors, which is hilarious. Mm-hmm. If you have an old house and it has an elf door,
right?
I mean, seriously, it's like a little door in your wall that looks like somebody that's a foot tall would come through. That was so that you could get your milk delivery and not have to go outside to bring it in.
Right.
You just open the little door, drag the milk bucket in, close the little door. So there's a lot of interesting features in buildings that are 150, 120 years old.
Right.
That we just don't have today, but are absolutely fascinating when you find them.
It is neat when you look. It's like a hidden treasure, and then it's like a detective game of what was this for, and how do we maybe repurpose it, use it for something else. So now we can't make the whole show about holiday hacks, but it's out there on the table. So folks, if you have any, be sure to get in touch with us. But I do want to say something. Max, you said today is National Slime Day.
Correct.
I don't think that's a throwaway thing. I think that's relevant to home improvement. It's highly relevant. So I feel like it's worth a mention. But Max, where did this holiday come from? Who instituted it?
The inaugural Slime Day was celebrated not but 1 year ago in 2023 when the event was established on the idea by the Ace Slime Company.
A slime company. All right.
Yes.
That reminds me of Ace Chemicals with the Joker.
Are they anti or are they creating
They're pro.
slime?
Their hope was that this day would be celebrated annually to encourage people to enjoy slime for purposes of learning, fun, play, and relaxation.
Okay, really? Okay.
And slime itself, in terms of its classification, dates back to the 1700s when a Swedish scientist was examining moss under a microscope. And the thing is it didn't necessarily fall under the category of solid or liquid, and so they classified it as slime, or if you're that Wendy's commercial back in the day, a sockwood.
A sockwood. Okay. Now, here's my thinking about it, because we've all encountered slime, in plumbing. We've seen that with pipe. You don't necessarily want slime in your drain pipes or anything like that. But I have to imagine and we've seen slime molds. We've seen that. But there's got to be benefits to slime. Is slime rich in nutrients? Is slime in other words, maybe you don't just wash it away with chemicals. Maybe you take it and throw it in your garden or something.
Well, all right, let's go with the definition of slime. And of course, I'm going to take you to the kitchen.
Of course.
And I'm going to take you to your spice cabinet. And I'm going to tell you, take out that box of cornstarch.
Okay. I'm listening.
That's how you make slime.
Oh, I see. So you mix it up with water.
You add a little
So you take
water
starches like pasta and like rice.
And there's your viscoelastic properties.
Okay, gotcha.
So, all right, that's the easiest example we use a variety of slimes, especially in the DIY world. Have you ever stripped paint?
Of course.
Well, some of those paint strippers are technically slimes.
Yeah, pretty caustic slime.
Yes, you don't want to get it on your skin. You don't want to play with it, but it is technically a viscoelastic property, so it is a slime. If you've ever used plumber's putty.
You think so? That's slime?
It's borderline, but
I think it's more of a
it's
putty,
edging up there. Right, but it's edging up there. It's in the gooey category of stuff we use all the time, or a lot of industrial slimes are space holders. So if we need to install something an inch away from something else, but we don't want them collapsing onto each other, we can use a variety of industrial slimes that can be then washed out after the install.
Oh, now that's interesting. So you're using it as a temporary support or something.
Exactly. So
and it's a lubricant too, I'm guessing.
You have lubricant slimes, yes.
I'm thinking of gel stain. It's very slimy when you put it on and then you take it off, and it's
I know it sounds like a goofy day to be bringing up in Tool Talk, but no, it actually isn't, because if you think about the viscoelastic properties of what we're talking about, and then walk over to the aisle for caulk.
Right.
There you go. Now, all of these properties that we play with are now on full display because of some adhesive we use are designed to dry good and firm, and other adhesives we have out there are designed to stay slightly tacky their entire life.
I guess, though, my original question was, is there benefit? Is there nutrients in like, I'm just thinking of the slime you find under your drain or under a sidewalk or something.
If you are a drain fly, yes, that is your entire menu of. So I don't know if you know when I say a drain fly, it's a tiny, tiny little moth.
Oh, those are the worst.
And if you see these anywhere in your house, you have a water problem.
Mm-hmm. Usually it's in the garbage disposal. You got to run some bleach through there or something.
Yeah, you got, and then, of course, in the air conditioning world, you have all of your gel slimes, which can grow in these things. And you need to make sure that you're putting the proper cleaner, or that you're properly cleaning out these areas.
Okay.
Because your slime molds, now you get into slime molds, you get into a whole nother world there. That's just that's going down the botany track that's just bizarre.
Okay. Well, National Slime Day, we've all dealt with slime,
Yes.
I like to think. And especially if you're a plumber out there, I'd love to know how you de-slime at the end of the day. So, all right, but let's shift gears. We missed this last week.
Oh, the humanity.
I think you've got a backlog. We have just enough time to tee it up this hour, Alan, and then we can get to it next week.
We're just going to start with burnt sockets.
So what did you do this week?
Oh my gosh. I just love it when your friends start texting you. Well, I always love when stories begin with, well, I was just and I tripped over, and now you have a scorched wall socket. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've got an old, cracked, or scorched looking, or discolored in any way wall socket, please go ahead and change that out.
Yeah.
If you can't do it, please hire somebody to come in and do it, because that is I'm just going to say that is just such a focal point of your home that makes our lives so much easier. You just plug something in and it works.
Yeah.
Please make sure those sockets are in good shape. I have seen so many broken ones this week.
Okay. All right. So there you go. We're going to tee it up. Electrical damage. And I know I happen to know there's other things on your list. But we'll get to those when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorgerson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. If you're just tuning in, we're in the middle of we teed it up in hour one. We were finding out what Allan did this week. Really, we'll find out what you did in the last 2 weeks, because I don't even think we got to your week in review last week. We got too busy with other matters. But also out on the table, if you're just tuning in, we want you to know that today is National Slime Day. There's hey, that's a very legitimate conversation to have in home improvement. I'm learning a lot about slime. You said Jell-O's technically a slime.
Well, Jell-O and instant pudding.
Right, and there are benefits and lots of course, problems caused in home improvement due to slime.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking of clogged mainline drains, especially. But that's out on the table, and of course, we'd love to hear your holiday hacks, true stories or otherwise. Because we're still wondering. Derek, our listener Derek from Munford texted us earlier with he reported that he had a neighbor or a friend or somebody that used to he had some sort of system of setting up the Christmas tree, and he had some sort of platform that could be lowered through the floor into the basement. And rather than taking down his tree like any civilized human being, he just left it there all year and then hoisted it back up.
Absolutely my hero. Oh, my gosh.
So, Derek, we'd like more information about that, and photos would be great. But if you've got any great holiday hacks, we'd love to hear those. Those are on the table as well. But before the break, you were talking to us about not burning your house down. And we see a lot of that now because people are using space heaters. Space heaters are worth a conversation. They're putting up Christmas lights. They're plugging in things that normally aren't plugged in. You might have outlets that don't get used all year except this time of year. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. A quick thing as you walk around your house, if you have external outlets, make sure those covers are good.
Good point.
I mean, it's
water and
little tiny, drastically overlooked thing, but if it's an exterior unit, it should be a true exterior socket with a cover.
Yeah, because those can fill up with dust and bugs and
slime. I got asked the other day about what would be putting mud in my outdoor wall socket, and I went, well, one, where's the cover? Two, you got a little potter's wasp trying to build a little house over the top of your socket. So, little mud daubers down there packing mud and stuff, trying to,
Sure.
He's going to make your life difficult. So, another quick thing that happened in the last couple of weeks, I changed out my spigots.
Now, these are interesting. Are these a new? I don't remember seeing these 10 years ago. How old are these? You're talking about freeze-proof outdoor water spigots.
Yeah, about 10 years ago is when I began hearing about these things on the commercial side.
Okay.
And they had a release valve, so if it froze up, the little cap would pop up instead of damaging the little ball mechanism in there that controlled the water flow. And they've continued to grow. So what I actually installed on old plumbing was the type that has a stem that goes from the actual faucet mechanism, goes right from the wheel, and goes back up in the wall about 6 inches. And that is where the mechanism to turn on and off the water flow is.
Now, I'm of two minds about this, but so the basic idea is you're taking the freeze point, which would be where the hose connects to the
right from the hose spigot on the exterior.
You're taking that and you're moving it into indoors, which in theory, or at least in the wall, which in theory should be less likely to freeze. However, here's our counterpoint. Well, it's also the most likely place to start leaking, right? I mean, you're making a water connection inside of a wall, which to me sounds really hard to get to.
But
first of all,
inside the pipe, I've altered nothing.
Okay, that's what I couldn't figure out about this. So how do these work actually? Because I don't like the idea of the threads being way inside the wall that I'm never going to see, and there's
the
a slow
threads
drip.
Are still where they're. All right, the pipe is unchanged.
Okay.
So what we did was we went in behind my 1977 spigot. Needless to say, it's been on there a minute.
Right.
So went in and behind it, clamped the pipe so that it doesn't move.
Okay.
Heated up the outside spigot because it's an old pipe, and unscrewed the spigot off of it. And the old spigot was a self-contained unit, aka the little ball inside of it that spun one way or the other when you turned the wheel was outside the building. So the new spigot, which looks shockingly like the old spigot, has a pressure release valve on it. So now if something were to happen in the spigot itself, there's some place for the ice to push up and out without damaging the mechanism. But the mechanism is now attached to a rod and goes about 6 inches into the original pipe.
Okay. Now, that's assuming there's no curves on the pipe, and everybody
there's a lot of assumptions here, but I have nice straight pipe there, and it slides straight up in, a little pipe dope, little thread lock, and this baby is now nice and tight and secure. And of course, I've got my little freeze cap over it.
Right.
But
I mean, you may as well. It's not like you're hosing things down
there,
in the winter.
you know, it's there. Might as well use them. I bought them for a reason. But I am not this year having to put hot tape and an electrical system to keep it from, absolutely positively keeping these ancient spigots from freezing, cracking, and causing problems.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that most, I know it's true in our house, most exterior water spigots are right connected to like either your kitchen or your bathroom, or it's not like independent. I know some places in your home it might be that's the only thing going on with water, but it seems to me that usually there's a water line just on the other side of that wall that it's like,
right.
We're already there. We already got all this plumbing. Let's just run a spigot outside, right? So if it freezes, it could trickle in and freeze the interior pipe as well. So
Well, mostly what happens, though, is the spigot itself will freeze and crack.
Okay.
And now, right now, we're having yo-yo temperatures in the Mid-South. So it's 28 to 25 at night, but it's 40 or 50 during the day. So what's going to happen is that spigot could freeze at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's not when you're going to have the problem.
No.
The problem's going to be about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, probably on a weekend, because that's just the way things happen.
Yeah, you're going to be gone all day.
You're going to be gone, and you're going to come home, and the front yard is going to be a swimming pool because that cracked spigot has been sitting there spraying water since that ice melted.
Right.
And that's generally how that happens.
Yep.
So now there are a variety of frost-proof spigots.
Yeah.
Pretty much for any particular issue. Now, I did have the assistance of a professional plumber because he's the one that had the cool little tool to hold the pipe in place.
Well, hold on. I made a note. I was going to keep my mouth shut, but and bring this up later. But I wanted to commend you on that because one of the things you said is you clamped the pipe in place before you started twisting and removing, and I think that's an important feature because pipes should be, in theory, clamped in place, but how often are they not? Or you start twisting, and you're twisting copper and flexible metals, which is not good. So, yeah, you want to make sure that thing is tight in place. So that was smart of you to do that.
Well, he's got the cute little tool that slides up the wall and kind of, it's basically a thin set of locking pliers.
Yeah.
But it held that threaded pipe in place so it didn't turn as we were trying to unscrew the spigot.
Right.
Because the worst thing you could do is unscrew the whole pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't want to do that. Didn't want to do that at all. So, welcome to just another little thought as you move forward with your home ownership. Do you have frost free? And it's not horrifyingly expensive to have them replaced.
Right. And I'll tell you this, because we're constantly worried about frozen pipes. We've had our issues. You know how we spent Christmas of 2022 up in the attic fixing a broken pipe. My wife and I just ordered a new kitchen faucet because even though we have one that we really like, it's that single handle deal.
Right.
And when we have to drip the faucets at night, and the kitchen's it's pretty far away. There's a lot of water has to travel pretty far to get there. Right. So there's a lot of vulnerable pipes. So we bought the one that's now going to have an independent hot and cold, and it's strictly just because we want to be able to drip where we know some hot water is coming out and some cold water. And I hate that we have to live that way, but that's just the brutal reality of it.
I kind of prefer those myself because you have better control over your hot water mix.
It looks cool. I mean, it looks kind of retro, the one we got. But anyway, yeah, it's nothing to play games with. And I feel like also here in the Mid-South, I think we're especially vulnerable because we don't think of this as a winter climate, but we get winter weather.
We do indeed.
And we got to be ready for it. So, all right. So that's out on the table, too. Boy, a lot of stuff. But this is going to be interesting. When we come back in our great moments in building history, we're going to talk about the really ancient structure of Notre Dame and the refurbishment after the fire.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
When my new apprentice arrives, he will take care of you.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. We invite you to follow us on Facebook. You can go to @Tool Talk Radio on Facebook and join the community. Check out the posts we've made over there, including our must-have item of the week, which really came in handy for me this week. Hopefully I'll have time to discuss how it came in handy, but the pull saw, which super functional, super flexible, really useful tool, and a conversation we're going to have here in just a minute, talking all about Notre Dame. Is it Notre Dame or Notre Dame? We always called it Notre Dame growing up in Chicago.
Right, that's if it's in America.
Okay, I don't know why. Why is it different? Just we're not giving it the European.
Exactly.
Okay. Anyway, that's coming up. It's very relevant. They just rebuilt the place after all of the damage.
2019, they had a big fire.
Before we get to that, though, we want to talk about our good buddy, who I have to believe is working morning, noon, and night these days. Our good buddy, Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration. I wonder what kind of calls he gets. Obviously the calls vary throughout the year.
Right now, the call is, I'm cold.
Yeah. But if you have any, first of all, the best time to call Brown Refrigeration is not during an emergency. You call, first we love Brown Refrigeration because, for one thing, they have a great business culture, and part of that business culture is to always stay up on the latest technology. They are all about the proper heating, air conditioning, and just quality air in your home. They use the Remy Halo system, which uses the UV power of the sun to create the cleanest air possible in your home. They are experts at cleaning your ductwork, and of course, they always work with trained systems when it comes to their HVAC units. And I mean, it is one of the most finely calibrated units it's really the most important system in your home. This is not something we want we're always all about DIY, not in this situation. Change your air filters.
Yep.
Keep things clean outside so you don't have weeds growing into them. Apart from that, contact Brown Refrigeration. It's a great idea to have them come out for once or twice a year for a tune-up and a checkup. It's just like the way you go to the doctor and the dentist, to just stay on top of it and to make sure it's functioning at peak efficiency. And they can also help you identify in case there's going to be problems coming up. Maybe you have an older unit that you have to start thinking about replacing in a year or two. But also, one of the things with Brown Refrigeration is they have great financing as well, because sometimes there is that surprise. Something happens and you have to do a replacement that you weren't quite ready for. Well, it makes it much nicer when you have a good financing option and a quality team behind you. We love Brown Refrigeration. They are a bedrock company here in the Mid-South. They're really just the first company you should call for all your HVAC needs, and they answer their phones. So call them directly. You can dial 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com, and go to their Facebook page, very active Facebook page. All right, Max, let's roll, man.
And now, great moments in building history.
All right, you guys. So Notre Dame. Do we have to introduce anything? I know, Max, you did a lot of you found some fun facts about Notre Dame. Do we kick it off with that, or do we? I like to think most of us know about the cathedral in France, but
well, here's something kind of interesting. Well, first off, Notre Dame de Paris is its full name, which means Our Lady of Paris.
Okay.
And so, no, it's not the football, it's not the college, and it's not the football team. Sorry, Rudy.
Okay.
But anyways, Notre Dame is located on the eastern end of a little island in the middle of Paris called the Ile de la Cite. I'm probably butchering my French. I was more Japanese. But something that's kind of interesting about Notre Dame, the location has always been holy ground. You know why?
Why is that?
Because before it was a cathedral, it was a Roman temple dedicated to Jupiter.
Oh, it's funny how that works.
And then
we've seen that throughout history. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's always, there's like certain areas that are just really conducive for being holy. I mean, we just talked about the Parthenon. The Parthenon started off as like a temple to Athena, and then eventually was converted into a church and then a mosque. And then back to just being ruins.
Right. And a tourist spot.
And a tourist spot. Well, Notre Dame kind of has the dual significance of being both a tourist spot, a cultural icon, and still a functioning church.
Right.
But what's kind of cool is the cathedral was initiated by a very charismatic bishop by the name of Maurice de Sully, which was kind of cool because he was actually classmates with the king of the time.
Really?
Louis VII, I believe. And so it's essentially the philosophy of if we build it, they will come.
How do you be... Okay, go ahead. I'm just wondering, it's not like the king's over there in public school and I happen to go to
well,
right.
Remember,
I mean, aren't they privately
was for the privileged only?
I was gonna say so
which included both clergy and nobility back in the day.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
And so it was kicked off around 1160, and what's cool is the original builder of Notre Dame is actually unknown. It wasn't until a little later that some of the other architects actually had names behind them, but the initial designer was actually an unknown person, which is pretty interesting.
I didn't know it was that old. 1160?
1163.
Holy smokes. Okay. That's definitely pre-air conditioning. Allan,
you could definitely say that. So let's fast forward to 2019, and the absolute unthinkable happened after literally hundreds and hundreds of years. They had a fire.
Yeah, we saw the footage. It looked like there was no way they could ever rebuild this, but
Well,
pretty horrific fire. I mean, I don't know how did it burn like 2 days or something?
Well, like the entire spire was converted to ash.
Yeah.
So I mean, this wasn't a waste paper fire in the basket over there. This was very bad.
Mm-hmm.
However, as a twist of fate, as many disasters often do, they expose things you would have never found otherwise.
Oh, interesting.
So
when you start taking walls out and
exactly. You and I, we've talked about, the expressions like 30 years is stupid and stuff like that, where you just don't know what somebody in the past did. Well, in this case, the past happens to be how many different renovations and how many different additional constructions did you go through in, I don't know, 700 years, 800 years?
Because the interesting thing is, not to be insensitive towards the fire, but the fire actually only burned down the more recent renovations, which were in the 1800s, because the spire was a more recent construction that was assembled in the 1700s, disassembled, and then reassembled again in the 1800s. Same thing with the wooden roof. That actually wasn't the first roof during the original structure, which is interesting.
Huh. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's interesting. Maybe they used more stone back in the day, and so it could handle a fire. I don't know.
Not so much in this thing. Well,
okay.
Of a lovely lady by the name of Miss Xiao Daru and her team of 20 basically are archaeologists and other related fields, began the forensics of the fire.
Wait, what do you mean? How did this thing start?
It's not so much how did it start, but what happened and what do we got to do to replace it?
Okay.
So they began documenting, everything they found, including tombs they didn't know were there.
Sure. Yeah.
Another thing they found that I found absolutely fascinating was back in the 13th century, they used to use what were called rood screens, ROOD. And what that was for...
Wait, what years are we talking?
About the 13th century or so.
Rood screens.
And you will still see these all the way up to Victorian homes, where off the main dining room, there would be another room that you entered from a different part of the building, but had some kind of screen or panel, a rood panel, into the main dining room.
The church, I believe, was they're like little side chapels that they would use the rood screens for.
So are you picturing like something you could just move if you needed to? It's like a fabric screen?
No, this is where you hid the musicians.
So you could hear them, but you don't see them.
So you could have ambient music for your meals or for your cathedral events. But you didn't necessarily have to see the orchestra to hear and enjoy the orchestra.
Well, that's kind of rude.
How is that?
Maybe it's just were they of lesser class or something back then? Or is
no, it's just that you didn't want necessarily the musicians to take
maybe they would be distracting.
Well,
if you're at mass or something.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, they have orchestra pits like at the Orpheum. And
that's true.
Exactly.
Yeah. They don't want you to focus on that. They want you to focus on what's going on
They want you to focus on the stage or the abbot or whoever's speaking.
That makes sense.
So, all of these things were found. And
rood screens, those are cool. Those need to make a comeback.
Trust me, I so wish they would. One of the biggest things they discovered was many of the building techniques that went into this, and they decided to rebuild it. They would rebuild it using the techniques that built it the first time. The only caveat is we would cut the wood with power tools.
Really? So they're mimicking 11th century, 12th century technology.
13th century, 18th century, yes.
And the only kicker is according to Agent 732, they would have to use wood that wasn't the original, because the original wood was growth timber, but they all got cut down back in the day.
Oh, pretty good information. So old Agent 732 is weighing in. All right, there's a lot here. There's a rich history, and we're gonna try to get to as much of it as we can when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Extraordinary events call for extraordinary actions. We form an allegiance to use sudden violence. Okay. Do you have the tools to turn a wooden mop handle into a stake?
Which size?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Believe it or not, that's actually relevant to the Notre Dame discussion.
Thanks, Max. Okay. I don't recommend using sudden violence on a job site, though. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and the rascally Max over there behind the glass. Let's see. We're in the middle of our great moments in building history, talking about the historic structure of Notre Dame, the rebuilding efforts after the fire. I had no idea this thing was 900 years old, almost 900 years old. We're going to jump back into that, but Max, you said we always reply to our text first. You said somebody else chimed in on the text line. Is it a relevant text or another wise guy? So
it depends.
Okay.
Would you like me to do the wise guy one first or the relevant?
Just hit them all. So let's go. Yeah, do the relevant one first. So, okay.
All right. So, Agent 732 said this is a PSA.
Okay.
Due to what is called the mere exposure effect, Christmas music is mentally harmful to people who work retail and food service. If you or someone you know does work in a place that has been playing Christmas music for months, don't play it in your home too.
Okay, Agent 732, it's funny. We are thinking exactly the same way because every big box store you go into, and I'm not a Grinch by any means, but I just, man, listening to Bing Crosby over and over and all that stuff, it just depresses me. It's funny. It's supposed to be cheerful and uplifting, but I've thought about, well, I'm in this store for 10 minutes. What is the poor worker that's here for 9 or 10 hours thinking? So, okay.
I assure you, I know what they're thinking, and it is not jolly.
And if you're out there and you love Christmas music, listening to it for 8 hours straight, I'd love to hear that too, because I literally don't know anybody that does. I mean, in handfuls and in the right context, it's great. You know, I like it at church, but I don't want to hear it when I go into
24 hours a day
to buy some
7 days a
2x4.
week.
So,
yeah.
All right, what's the other text, Max? So,
Brew Blaster.
What does Brew Blaster have to say?
When you say your company is carpentry and wood turning, what is wood turning?
Okay, well, it's Brew Blaster. It's using my. I think I've spoke of it in the past. I like to make things on my on the lathe. Among them are some commemorative baseball bats that I usually make exclusively for Cubs players. Although if a Cardinals fan paid me enough, I suppose I'd make some for that. I also make walking sticks. I make Harry Potter wands or anything interesting on a lathe, but that's why I call it carpentry and wood turning. Because wood, I'll just tell you this: if I could just make wood turnings all day, I probably would. I love making them, but that doesn't always pay the bills. So, but Brew Blaster, not a terrible question. I mean,
No,
other
it's
people have
actually a
asked
valid
me about
question.
that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay, all right. Well, hey, thanks for the text, and you can keep them coming in at 901-683-0989. But jumping back into the conversation about Notre Dame. You said that, okay, nobody wishes for a horrific fire. I guess, okay, nobody was killed, right? Nobody was hurt in this fire, I believe, I hope.
As far as I know,
okay.
there were no injuries.
So it was property damage to a historic structure. But then you said, well, all sorts of things were discovered and all sorts of there's new features to the cathedral that they didn't have before.
And things that got boarded over during different renovations. And the one thing that honestly came out of all of this, they're working on the cathedral. They're putting back in the stained glass. They're getting all of this done. And everybody immediately notices something. The cathedral, for all these hundreds of years, has been rather dark.
Okay.
And, well, if you think about it, that's because it's been lit by things on fire.
So you got that soot that's just making its way up to the ceiling.
Creosote and dust and all that kind of stuff had been coating every source of natural light in this cathedral for hundreds of years.
So they've had tinted windows all these years.
They have had tinted windows. So as they were putting in the new cathedral lighting, as they're getting all that done, they're really shocked at how bright the cathedral is. So without hundreds of years of candles and candle soot, now suddenly they're like, they're really getting the image of what this looked like when it first opened.
Right. Yeah.
And it was just stunning. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So, weird things. And I am happy to report the one non-traditional feature that they have added throughout the facility is fire protection systems.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, come on.
Yes, thank goodness.
I'm curious, though, if you research this or if this is something you know, because one of the things that we're always interested in is, especially with a structure this old, is how much did they think about airflow and keeping people warm or keeping people cool or something like that? Because, I mean, look, I don't even know how tall it is. How tall is it inside? Isn't it like 5 stories tall or something?
Yeah, cathedrals are big, yeah.
Okay, so you got to think about air movement. You got to think about that. Were they thinking that way back in 1160, or was it just, let's make this thing big and cool?
Well, natural lighting in terms of like the grand stained glass windows.
Okay.
All right, you also had the physics of weight.
Oh, yeah.
So why in so many of these French Gothic features do you have so many beautiful vaulted windows? And that's because the vault itself, not the window, but the vaulting itself weighed dramatically less than a solid stone or wood wall. So the only way you could build features large enough to be grand enough to hold enough people was to put in the lighting and put in the windows. And the way these were designed, the way of these things were designed in that time was human beings put out a lot of heat.
Right. Yeah.
We are little walking space heaters. You put 1,000 of us in an area, if it's kind of snug, it's going to get hot in there quick.
Yeah.
So that is why in so many of these we're going to call them medieval constructions, they're very airy. They seem to be a little bigger than they need to be. But I'm like, well, you shove 1,000 people in there.
Well, that's why I was wondering.
That air starts getting really precious.
I've never been to Notre Dame, but I just wonder if, 700 or 800 years ago, you open the back doors, you open a couple of the front side doors, and you're getting some cross ventilation.
Yes,
and maybe that helps. It's July in Paris.
They planned that. Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah, because that's physics right there. So. You know what I'm also curious about is some of the stuff. There's a lot of history that's happened. There's a lot of political uprisings. There's a lot of wars that have happened in this period of time, and somehow Notre Dame has survived. But Max, you said there's obviously highs and lows here. Right?
There's some pretty unlikely heroes when it comes to the history of Notre Dame. A lot of it is kind of contemporary, minus like the Protestant Reformation and areas like that. That kind of provided its own little turmoil, but that was religious turmoil. Not necessarily damage to the structure itself. Where a lot of the damage took place was the French Revolution.
Yeah,
because they literally converted the the Notre Dame into this quote unquote church to like this religion of reason, so to say, and they kind of gutted it and they really damaged it a lot. And after that, actually was an unlikely hero in the form of Napoleon, who, although he was Napoleon, he wanted to renovate. He wanted to see that Notre Dame was restored to its former glory because he recognized the importance of, well, if I want to lead an empire, I know religion's really important to people, so I should probably renovate this. But he didn't want to have because back in the day, kings and stuff would be anointed by popes and bishops, so to say. So he literally crowned himself emperor in Notre Dame.
Yeah, nobody was voting for that guy.
No, nobody did vote for him. But then after him, in the mid-19th century, we have a man by the name of Viollet-le-Duc, who actually, I would say, inspired by another unlikely hero, Victor Hugo.
Well, that's who I've been waiting to hear from because, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And Victor Hugo has one of the coolest names of all time. What a great writer.
You could say Victor Hugo quite literally left his mark on Notre Dame, not only because his book, Notre Dame de Paris, which is the French title, contributed to Le-Duc wanting to help renovate the cathedral to its former glory. He also left his mark because a lot of the structures in there that came after the fact might have been inspired by him, namely the gargoyles in the Chimera that were put in on top of the cathedral itself. Those weren't original constructions. Those were 19th century editions.
And just a little quick aside, I remember watching the Hunchback of Notre Dame Disney story, the Disney movie. What was it, from the 90s, with my kids when they were little, and that's a pretty scary movie, actually. What's that one villain's name?
Frollo.
Frollo's he's a pretty intense villain.
And it gets worse, but when you read the actual book, but in terms of how despicable he is.
Right, but it's a great movie. It's a really good animated feature. But okay, but
it's amusing.
Yeah.
But keeping with the idea of the unusual heroes of the renovation, of a kind of a interesting thing, a fashion designer that dressed Madonna, Lady Gaga, and several other people, Jean-Charles de Castelabajat, is designing all the liturgical of all of the religious garments.
The liturgical,
yes,
okay.
The liturgicals, yes,
okay,
for Notre Dame. So
or vestments, probably.
Yes, so
interesting.
It's been quite the renovation.
Okay. We'll have a few parting thoughts, and then we've got to get to my cork floor report because I've teased it for the last 2 weeks. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is Tool Talk Radio, broadcasting from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
There's something about an underdog that really inspires the unexceptional.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. If you're just tuning in, we've been talking about, in our great moments in building history, really, I guess, is it proper to call it ancient? I mean, you said it was built in 1160. I guess I'd call that ancient.
I think that qualifies.
The elderly structure of Notre Dame, some of the history. We really just sort of hopscotched across history a little bit, talked about the renovations, and of course, it just recently reopened. And, there's a lot. If you want to do the research, and I'm always a fan of jumping on YouTube, and there's lots of great videos. It's a really interesting rabbit hole to go down. But we can't spend the whole show talking about that. I've got to get to my cork floor report. But before we do that, we have somebody else to discuss. Our good buddy, Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Another dynamic personality. It's great that we have these dynamic personalities here associated with Tool Talk Radio.
Do you think he would have made the cut for helping renovate the roof on Notre Dame?
Oh, yeah. He would have had strong opinions. He would have been a good man. Okay, yeah. Jay, if you would just expand your region a little bit. I don't know what the license is to do that, but I would have loved to seen Jay put his stamp on the roof at Notre Dame. But if you have anything to do with the exterior protection of your home, for example, roofing, remodeling, gutters, roofing, siding, windows, and gutters, and basically all interior remodeling as well. And, the thing about Jay Hill, for one thing, he is really one of the highest rated roofers in the region. If you go to the Better Business Bureau, you're going to see that he's always 5 stars. He's rated right there at the top. He's a GAF Master Elite Installer. And these are systems. These, we look at things like a gutter or siding or your roof, and it looks pretty simple, actually, but these are really well engineered and well thought out systems down to the actual materials that they're made out of and how they deal with the stresses of being outdoors. It takes a certain level of genius and craftsmanship to use these systems and to install them in your home. And that's what you get with Jay Hill and Big M Roofing and Remodeling. The other thing that sets Jay apart is the fact that he is a former insurance agent, which is hugely helpful because how often have we had damage to our home, either on the inside or the outside? And the question becomes, I wonder if this is covered by my homeowner's insurance that I've been paying for 30 years in this house and I've never made a claim. Well, Jay should be the first person you call. He's going to come out. He's going to give you a free consultation, and his expertise is really invaluable because if you do have a path forward using your homeowner's insurance, it's going to save you a lot of money, and it takes a a scary process and turns it into an exciting process. Allan and I both had our roofs replaced thanks to Jay's expertise, and it's you talk about peace of mind. Every time it rains, I look up and just go, no more leaks, no more squirrels coming in. I love it. So, but Jay also brings an energy and optimism to every project. I don't know every time I refer Jay to somebody, people are always calling me and thanking me. They say, we love Jay. He went above and beyond what we asked him to do, and he's just a great guy. So that's why we love working with Jay Hill. You can call him directly, in fact. Call him right now at 901-484-5645, or go to his website, bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, well, we've talked about this enough. Let's get to my follow-up report. We've talked about this project that I've been on. If you're new to Tool Talk Radio, I've been on a pretty big project, and basically installing a laundry room and a carport. It's big. I'm not going to recap it, but it was time to put the flooring in. And these, one of the things I love about this customer, John and Amy, good, great people. They're sort of outside the box thinkers, and they don't sweat things too much. They really love the look of a cork floor. Now, this is a laundry room. So my mind, there's going to be a sink and there's a washing machine. At some point, water is going to get on there. We've talked about the pros and cons of this, but the basic gist with them is like, you know what? If in 5 years we decide we want something else, we'll do something else. But they love the look of this cork floor, and so I put it down. And I have to say, Allan, it's a really interesting material to work with. It's the pre-finished, what do you call it? Like just basically cut and click method. You cut it and click it into place. And it's about 3/8 of an inch thick, and these pieces are 12 inches by 36 inches. And so the floor starts coming together pretty quick when you have a big open run. Literally, you just cut one end and the other. But one thing that I couldn't do with some pre-finished floors in the past, I was literally able to take a razor, you score it once or twice, and then you can snap it in half. I couldn't do that in this situation. I mean, I tried, and it wasn't really doing it, so I had to switch to a saw. What is that little saw called that looks like a cross between a drill and a circular saw? Is it just kind of a battery-powered circular saw? The blade is about 4 inches in diameter. I guess there's a name for that. You're looking at me blankly, but I'm just going to call it a handheld circular saw. I was using that, but man, it was kicking up so much dust, and it was like this little fine, misty dust that was starting to get on my nerves. So I switched over to the jigsaw to cut the pieces, and it worked really, really well. But boy, are they happy with this floor. It looks great, and it feels great to stand on. It's like got built-in cushioning, so.
Yeah. It's depending upon the floor that you got to play with. They come in a variety of styles and of
patterns,
textures and densities.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I would say it's about 1/8 of an inch thick of the actual top cork. So, but that's noticeable when you're standing on it, So the question now becomes, okay, how well is this floor going to wear? Which is a kind of an unknown to all of us. Have you seen cork floors that are, I don't know, 8 or 10 years old?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So how do those things hold up, man?
Again, depends on the density and the traffic.
Right. This is going to be a lot of traffic coming and going.
The proper flooring in the proper area. Cork is a soft floor.
Right.
Just by its very nature, that's why you bought cork. But it feels good. It
does.
Walks good. It's just... It's one of those floors when you get it in and you walk across it, you kind of got to smile to yourself and go, yeah, that feels nice. The only problem I've ever run into was after an extended while, heavy furniture had a tendency to indent in the floor. And that was easy enough solved by putting a proper, like a little moving slider pad or something under the foot. It distributes the weight a little bit so it doesn't drive a little 1-inch hole down into the cork.
That's the trick, because depending on where you're putting it and so like, for example, we have a washer and dryer in here.
Right.
I put these nice soft pads, you could say. They're not pads, but they're like feet that I have attached to it, and they're pretty discreet. You don't even see them, and they work really nice. It slides and it stays in place. But I was picturing, what if they get dressed up for the evening and Amy is walking out and she's got high heels on or something? Is that going to poke into it or something?
That's not going to bother.
So, or if the kids walk in and their son's got his soccer cleats on or something. I mean, that's not a good idea anyway, I guess. But
all right, if he does it for like 2 years, you're going to have a problem.
Okay.
They walk in once or twice. I mean, it's good flooring. I mean, it's designed to be good flooring, but it's the 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Would I use cork flooring in my restaurant? No.
Yeah. Would I use it at home? Feels good. It's a nice, sustainable material. If that's your taste, don't be afraid of it. Yeah, and it looks good, and I guess I'm wondering how springy cork is over time. Like you said, I could see it compressing and then not coming back, not springing back, basically. So it's eventually, now we're talking like 40 years from now, right? Or I just looked at a property not too long ago that had 80-year-old hardwood floors, right? Absolutely beautiful. You give it a light sand and you keep going. I don't know how well cork's going to do 80 years from now, so. Well, the good news is I didn't have to warranty this job. So it's like, no. So I didn't warranty the floor. I warrantied everything else. But they took it for what it is, and it's a decorative choice, and they may change their mind later. Yeah. So,
now, will water or moisture make it swell? That's a good question.
That's what I wondered, too.
A brew blaster actually asked that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Will it swell up?
It is a natural material, but it is a heavily rosined material. So there's a pretty hardy top coat on this brew blaster. So taking your Swiffer to it gonna hurt it? No. All right, we'll have more to report next week, but not now because we're out of time. What a show! You've been listening to another versatile and well-rounded episode of Tool Talk Radio, but it's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.